Hello everyone, this is ACH AI Akaya, and we're looking at another 1v1 today, again, with featuring none other than ppgBubbles. Oh, and the person he's playing against already given away. He's facing off against ROOTSlush. So two titans in the StarCraft 2 world facing off right now, going to be playing a 1v1 on Shakuras Plateau. And this, of course, is a 4-player map, but one thing to note, of course, in the spawning locations is that it's basically left versus right. So you will never be spawned in close locations such as this. There will always be one person on the right side, one person on the left side. So you generally have a little bit more space, but of course, since they are spawned both on the bottom, they do have these destructible rocks leading to this central path, which will allow them to get to each other really quickly if both sets of destructible rocks are taken down. And it looks like we actually have a very early scout coming out here from ppgBubbles, and we did see him play very strongly against ROOTQXC a little while ago, so he definitely is playing a lot with these Root guys, and I think he just runs into him on the ladder again, since Root is one of the most active teams on the ladder right now as far as pro gaming teams in the US ladder. So it seems like ppgBubbles runs into him a lot. No, ppgBubbles loses that scout. ROOTSlush losing a little bit of mining time there to get that surround, but he does force the scout out, and he does kill the scout, so that ppgBubbles is not going to get any more intel, and it looks like he is actually going to go ahead and throw down a forge first. Probably going to try to get out some kind of an early expansion here, using that ramp and trying to block off any early attacks. That way he can get that expansion. Of course, with how large this map is, early expanding very common for the Zerg, as you can see, already throwing his hatchery down on 15, it looks like. So getting that economic start going already for both players, and I would imagine that once we have a cannon or two out here, we will probably see a Nexus go down for ppgBubbles. And it looks like Slush finally getting over to ppgBubble space is going to be taking a look around, and he does see the forge first. And actually, I'm not sure, ppgBubbles may come over here and try to block off. If he drops two pylons here and then a cannon behind it, then he will actually be able to force a cancel on this expansion if he gets it there quick enough, although he does not have a probe over there right now. So, and oh my gosh, what is going? Oh, he built the evolution chamber. Very tricky, using the we saw ppgBubbles a long time ago do a trick like that, where he would basically build the hatchery and then cancel it. And of course, he is a Protoss player, not a Zerg player, so it was kind of funny to see this strategy from him. But he basically did this exact same thing, but inside a Terran player's base, and then when the building died, the Broodlings actually would take out the Marines that were trying to defend the wall off on the main base. But it looks like ROOTSlush actually using that to block the expansion for ppgBubbles, so very creative way for a Zerg player to slow down the Protoss expansion, and it looks like he is going to be able to take that down and slow down that expansion a little bit, but not doing a whole lot of damage with those Broodlings, fortunately getting those out of there relatively quickly. And he is going to put down the Nexus just a little bit late, although looking at Slush's base, his hatchery is already up and running, and he's only got a couple drones at it right now, but getting that hatchery up so much quicker is going to be a pretty big deal. But taking a look at the unit overlay here, we can see that there is already 24 probes for ppgBubbles, and ROOTSlush only has 21 drones, and actually now 25, so a 4 harvester difference. And if we look at the income, we can see that there is a slight difference, a slight lead for Slush in the gas here, but it looks like there is a slight lead for Bubbles in the mineral count. So that is definitely going to be interesting to see what tech patterns they choose. And of course, Bubbles is going to be able to just basically tech freely without having to worry about getting scouted too quickly here, because usually you build that first stalker in order to get the scouting drone out of your base. But since he is able to wall off with that forge and the extra couple cannons on the front here, he is actually going to be able to tech pretty easily, although there is one Overlord in his base still, so he'll definitely need to be careful about his tech building placement. But it looks like he's actually going to go ahead and go Stargate, so possibly going to see some Phoenix harassment. This is actually very powerful. If you can get about 3 or 4 Phoenix, maybe 5 if you're trying to go really aggressive with it, then you can do a lot of damage. You can pick up Queens and snipe them. You can take out a lot of Overlords, and it really forces the Zerg into going going pretty heavy on Hydras. So then that, of course, allows you to transition pretty naturally into Colossus, which is a very, very good counter against Hydras, especially if you have a meat shield like Zealots or Stalkers in front of it. But it looks like Slush going to come in back here, and it looks like he did see the Stargate, so he is aware that that is on the way. But he is going to know what the Stargate tech is. And actually, I'm sorry, did he see... Okay, he did see that warp in. It looked for a second like when it was warping in that he didn't actually see the building itself. So I wasn't sure if maybe he didn't have all of that intel. But anyways, going back to the build here, it looks like he's also getting up his gas. So very, very gas-heavy build. He's got all 4 gases, and actually it looks like all 4 gases already going up and running, just getting the 4th now for Slush. So both players playing a very economically minded game. They both are saying, hey, I want to go ahead and get my tech up. I want to get my economy stabilized before we start duking it out on this battlefield. And of course, that was something that Bubbles was able to force kind of, since he did this hard wall off. That makes it very difficult for the Zerg to do any early aggression with those 2 cannons back there. Although with only 1 pylon powering it, he might have actually been able to break it down if he did a roach timing push. But nonetheless, we are going to see a actually just bringing 1 Void Ray out here. I thought he was just going to try to take down those destructible rocks, but no, just using them to charge up actually, so he can go ahead and take down the Queen here. And that Queen is going to go down very quickly with that charged up Void Ray. Barely, not even losing its shields there, but there are Hydras already out to come help with these 2 Queens, and so it looks like the Void Ray is going to have to back off, doing a little bit of micro here, trying to keep that charge on the Void Ray up, but it looks like he is not going to be able to keep it up, and he, oh my goodness, barely gets away with 1 hit point. Very, very close on that. Good control by Slush to force that Void Ray to back off, and good control by Bubbles to actually get it out of the line of fire before it dies. Although unfortunately with how few HP it has, it's not going to be able to do much else, at least not until he gets a significant ground army to support it. Although there is a lot of buildings going down right now for Bubbles. Bubbles putting down 4 gateways. He does have 2 robotics facilities, and looks like he's going to switch into some very heavy Colossus. So forcing those Hydras out already. Hydras and Zerglings pretty much exclusively for ROOTSlush right now. So the Colossus is going to be very, very strong against that unit combination. And if we look at the units overlay here, we can see that there is indeed no other units for our Zerg player at this point in time. He will definitely need to get out some Corruptors and possibly even some Roaches to support that and just kind of be a meat shield for this ground army. But it looks like right now the only units out for Bubbles are the 2 Void Rays, so that is definitely something that he's going to need to start cranking out an army here quickly, because there is starting to get a pretty good amount of Zerg units here, and it looks like he's actually got drops here. Going to go for a good old-fashioned Brood War Doom drop with all of these Zerg units. That is a lot of Overlords worth of units, and here comes some more Hydralisks going to pop in here, and this could actually be a pretty bad spot for Bubbles. He has only got 2 Colossus out right now, and of course the 2 Void Rays, one of which is just now heading back to base. It looks like he feels confident that he can squeeze through there with that 1 HP, since his shields are fully regenerated now, and throwing up even another gateway here. So I believe he has 6 warp gates now, although one of them not changed into a warp gate just yet apparently. So a little bit of a miscontrol there on the base management, but getting those upgrades. It looks like he is researching ground +1 upgrade, and here comes the Doom drop from Slush. He is going to move in with all these Overlords right now, and without a whole lot of anti-air, he is going to be forced to try to take these units out as they hit the ground, and taking on those Hydras relatively easily because he did not drop all of his forces there, and it looks like Bubbles is actually going to be able to clean this up pretty easily because the drop was kind of split up into multiple positions, and it actually, a lot of damage being done from our Zerg player here, and he's actually got a few more units up in these Overlords. But it looks like he is going to have to back out as most of the forces have been taken out on the ground. Meanwhile, behind that attack, Slush going ahead and expanding up at the natural for the base up at the, I guess that would be like the 11 o'clock position, 10 o'clock position, something like that. So getting another expansion up, staying 1 base ahead, or at least trying to get 1 base ahead because they have been pretty even on 2 base this whole time, and meanwhile checking to make sure that Bubbles has not yet taken his 3rd base. So very, very good attack by Slush there, doing a little bit of damage, making sure to keep the Colossus count down, which of course are the lethal units against those Zerglings and Hydras, but there are a couple more coming out right now, and once Slush gets his base up and running, he is going to be in pretty good shape economically here, and it looks like we're actually going to see another drop while he saturates that base, bringing over a ton of Overlords filled with more Zerglings and Hydralisks, and we can see that he has not even started to get any There's no air out on the map right now. There's an infestation pit going down right now, but he has not, or it's actually down, but he has not actually built any infestors yet. As we can see on the unit counting station, they are still not over there. And there are a lot of upgrades going down and even a couple Colossus coming out. And it looks like Bubbles is actually going to spot that drop before it can happen and deflect it. And here comes Bubbles breaking through his first set of destructible rocks, and it looks like he is actually going to try to break through the second set as well and put some pressure on the base of Slush. And here he comes taking down this extra set of destructible rocks. That is also going to allow this Void Ray to charge up, which only one Void Ray is not a hugely scary thing, but once it gets charged up, you definitely cannot discount it because it's going to do a lot of damage, although it looks like he is not going to move in before that wears off. And here comes a couple of Corruptors here. Those are going to be the answer to these Colossus. There are now 3 Corruptors out here, a 4th one coming right now as well. So that is definitely a good amount of Corruptors, and I don't think that he has enough Stalkers to deal with those. So those are actually going to do a ton of damage to the Colossus here, and you can already see that the Void Ray going down pretty quickly. There are 4 Colossus, and the Hydralisk moving in here with the Zerglings trying to do some damage. There is a lot of Colossus just laying waste to these Hydralisks though, and the Stalkers are actually going to be able to take out the Corruptors, it looks like, but how many Colossus will he lose? He has lost 3 of them so far, 3 of his 4, and it looks like he may actually lose the last Colossus here, so he will only be attacking, continuing this press with his Stalker army. And there are more reinforcements right now coming in, strictly Zealots, and Bubbles also expanding behind this, taking that low ground expansion, the smiley face expansion, as Artosis refers to it in the GSL, because it looks kind of like a smiley face on the mini-map with the geysers and the minerals. But there are a lot of Zerg units catching out right now, a bunch of Zerglings and Hydralisks. Still, Slush sticking with that tech. He really likes that unit combination to deal with Protoss apparently, and no more. It doesn't look like there's any more Corruptors coming out right now since there's only 1 Colossus in the mix, but it looks like there is just going to be too many Stalkers here for him to deal with right now. And with the Proxy Pylon inside of the Zerg player's base now, he is going to be able to warp units in right in front of Slush's base, so that is absolutely brutal to deal with, and it looks like he may actually be able to take down all of the important tech that is inside the Zerg player's base here, as he does have his lair, and Slush is going to go ahead and GG, and a very nice timing attack from ppgBubbles here is going to take this game down. ppgBubbles once again showing that he can play with some of the best in the world. ROOTSlush falling to this teammate from PPG once again. And thanks again for watching, guys. Like I mentioned, I'm going to try to be casting as many of these PPG games as possible. These guys have a lot of potential, and I'm excited to see what they do in the future. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys again later.